establish every year our level of performance and our competency, and the guys who have been there, somebody has to show that they're better than them, or that player has to be unavailable. All right, and that's the way it is at every position. It's not unique to any position. That's the way it is across the board. So that's how you get players, that have an opportunity to gain playing time, regardless of who else is on the roster or what else is on the roster, by their performance. And that's the only way I know to do it. So that's the way I'm going to do it.
Okay, we all know when Bill Belichick talks, we listen, and the man has some big decisions to make. That was him on Monday talking about who will start week 1 under center. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. I'm Charlie Arnold, joined by Sam Acho. Also, my co-host of First Take, Her Take, Kimberly A. Martin, which, by the way, I need everybody to know because this is a huge deal. We've been doing the podcast since, what, January? This is our first time ever meeting in person. I now know you are real. You are a very lucky man to be here for this.
There it is.
Yeah, you're not on First Take. You're on First Take Takeover.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But we're happy to have you here, Sam.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. How are you guys doing?
Good. Lots of football stuff to talk about.
Lots of football, and that's the perfect realm for both of you. So what do you say? Let's get things started. A door opens in Mac Jones while he has shown himself in. Cam Newton is sitting out a third straight day of practice. That was yesterday due to NFL's COVID-19 protocol, and the rookie quarterback shined in the joint session with the Giants. We already know it's only practice, but Jones was totally dialed in, capping off his day by leading the Patriots about 80 yards for a touchdown in a 2-minute drill. Belichick now had this to say this morning.
Will Cam be back out there today?
Yes.
With his absence, so to speak, you said it was a good opportunity for Mac Jones. You said it certainly was in the in-person press conference. How did you see him take advantage of the extra role in the extra snaps that he got?
All the players and the coaches, for that matter, that participated yesterday learned, had good learning experiences. We did some things well. There's certainly some things that we need to correct, and there are a number of things we need to do better. But hopefully we can learn from some of the mistakes that we made yesterday collectively as a team. That includes everybody, that we can correct those and not repeat them again today, and go out and execute things a little bit better.
And look who else we have here with us, Mr. Louis Riddick. Now, I do want to note one thing. Cam Newton will be back in practice today. His sitting out time is now over due to that protocol. But, Sam, let's start with you. Should Mac Jones start week 1?
No, he shouldn't. Cam Newton should be the starter in week 1. Why? Because he has the experience. He's going into his second year in this offense, and we all know that it's difficult to learn a new offense after you go to a new team. We heard it with Tom Brady last year. He said, man, it took me about 8 weeks before I got to understand this new offense. And so year 2, Cam Newton will be better than what we saw in year 1. We all obviously know about the injuries that Cam had in year 1. We know about the time missed because of COVID in year 1. But what we also know is that the Patriots went out and got some weapons on offense. Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, they got some weapons on defense as well. And so we know that Cam has not only the ability to take this team far, but also he's got the weapons, number 2. And then lastly, I just look at the roster. I look at where Cam is at right now and how he's competed in this competition. He has consistently shown that he's ready to be the starting quarterback. Even though Mac Jones is knocking on the door, Cam has consistently stepped up to the table. And so that's why I think he should be the starting quarterback.
Kimberly?
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me, man. Because look, I mean, there's obviously information that Bill and Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator, has that we just don't have. Look, we're relying on Bill's snippets and press conferences and Mike Reese giving us great reporting as he always does. Nobody's dialed into the Patriots more than him to kind of frame our opinions here about who should be starting here. And look, I haven't talked to Cam a couple times last year in production meetings, and the Patriots coaching staffs themselves saying, look, Cam will be much better in year 2 than year 1 because of the way that his inclusion on the football team last year came about, how he came in the process late, then he got sick. Much of the team was, up and down, and then he got injured. I mean, there's just a number of different things that led to him having a subpar year last year, and he's showing that now when it's set up the right way, he is someone who can still play the game at a high level. That being said, look, Bill is one of those people who, as he also alluded to in that press conference, every year you have to reestablish yourself in his mind. He's not one of those people who believes in a lot of the talk that you constantly hear people saying about, well, a team finished strong last year, they're just going to carry that right on into the next year, always using last year or the previous year as a kind of a way to predict what's going to happen in the coming year. Bill doesn't believe that. Every year is a clean slate for him. And right now, based off of what you are hearing about Mac Jones, Mac is doing all the things in this setting that he did during his career at Alabama, which is play smart football, make quick decisions, throw the football accurately, and continue to, exceed people's expectations of him, especially when it comes to being able to put points on the board for his football team, which is what he seems to be doing in controlled situations in practice, in situations in preseason games. And if that's the case, and he is excelling in situational football, which is Bill's number one criteria, regardless of the position that you play, can you excel in situational football when it means the most and it matters the most? Then you will play for me. I don't care what you have done in the past. If you are doing it currently, and I believe you can do it consistently, you will play for me. I've lived through it. And if Mac is doing that, Mac's going to start, regardless of how we feel about Cam or otherwise. And that's what the NFL really is supposed to be about. And that's what makes this so fascinating and, quite honestly, maybe the most interesting quarterback battle of this entire training camp.
Yeah, listen, I understand this is Mac's team. That's what we get it. Even Cam knows he's on borrowed time, right? But to me, the real issue is once you hit that button and say, I'm going to go with the rookie QB, you can't go backwards. Because what did we see with the Dolphins last year? We saw Flores have Tua, then went back to Fitzpatrick, and it worked out in a sense on the field, but he was questioned and he was criticized for that decision. And now heading into this year, everybody's sort of like, well, is Tua really the guy? Like, how long is Tua going to be the guy in Miami? Like, that's what we want to see, the confidence that coaches have in these rookie QBs. I think right now, Lewis said it. Everybody expects Cam to be better in year 2, right? Preseason work, all this stuff, no COVID. Let's hope, knock on wood. So to me, you just start with the veteran, because at least if the veteran does not do what the veteran is supposed to do, you know you have a kid who's been on the bench, watching, learning, seeing what not to do, what I should do, so that when he gets that moment, and listen, right now it's preseason. We're seeing a lot of vanilla stuff right now. I think Mac has been very good to this point, but when I see him for real in a regular season game, I'll have the confidence to know, like, yeah, he's watched a little bit and he's ready to roll.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue and the bigger point is this, and Lewis made a phenomenal point. He made the phenomenal point of every year under Bill Belichick, you have to reestablish yourself. Mm-hmm. Nothing is given, nothing is given away, nothing is gift wrapped to a player or even a coach for that matter. And what Cam Newton has done this preseason was to go and earn that job. We all thought that this was Mac's job. Remember the week 1 preseason game? Mac looked phenomenal. Some of those throws he was making, we thought, wow, Mac might really have this job. And then Cam kept on performing and performing and performing. You know what Bill Belichick sees when he sees that? He says, oh, wow, like this is a quarterback competition, but Cam is stepping up to the level that he needs to be at. And so, yes, Mac Jones looks good, but Cam Newton at this point has consistently looked, I'm not going to say better, because some people are saying, well, Mac Jones is making all these great passes in practice and in the preseason, but Cam Newton has shown what he needs to show when it comes to competing and earning that starting spot. Nothing is given with Bill Belichick. Everything is earned, and Cam Newton has earned that starting spot so far.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't be shocked either way. All right, either way that they go with this, I'm not shocked, because I believe that Cam has done enough to win the starting quarterback job initially, coming out the gate. I do believe that. I believe that Mac Jones, given what he has been able to do so far, look, he can't play a regular season game. They haven't played any. And a lot of the NFL is about forecasting. It's about projecting. That's what you're paid to do as a GM, as a coach. And I don't necessarily think that should be held against the player simply because he hasn't done it against, top flight competition on a regular basis yet to this point. Because the NFL, there's been plenty of players who have earned starting jobs without having played a single regular season game and went on to justify that decision that the coaching staff and that general managers make as far as the projection is concerned. And I think that applies to quarterbacks too. Look, I do understand the whole thought process behind, look, if you have a veteran quarterback, let him start out first, let the young quarterback sit, because once you turn to him, you can't go back. Okay, I understand the thinking behind that, but quite honestly, if you go ahead and start the young quarterback and he does have some bumps in the road, I would assume you've already thought out the fact that, look, if he does start to struggle, I am going to ride with him. I'm not trying to go back because I believe that this guy over the long haul is going to be better than the incumbent, and he's going to take our franchise to greater heights. That's, again, part of the projection. So I can totally justify in my mind, and I'm sure Bill could justify in his mind, going either way with this. With Cam, because of how much better he has been, or with Mac, because Mac has been exactly what Bill thought he would be. A smart decision maker, accurate passer of the football, not the great athlete that some of the other quarterbacks who came out in this draft are. And I think he believes that they can win football games with him. Again, this is one of those that, depending upon which day you catch me, I may give you a different answer, to be honest with you. But that's and I'm sure that Bill is pulling his hair. Well, you know what? I wouldn't say Bill's pulling his hair out. Bill don't pull his hair out about anything. He don't sweat anything. But this is what makes this intriguing. And that's why I'm interested to know this. When they lined up first team offense, who walked into that huddle today at practice? That's what I want to know. Who walked into the huddle? Was it Cam or was it Mac? Because that would make everything else we're talking about right now moot. Because that will tell you where Bill is thinking with this right now.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because this week in particular, just the availability is your best asset in the NFL. So for Cam to be removed and for Mac to have center stage in practice against the Giants, that to me is huge. Because you're about to play the Giants in a preseason game. If he can show with the added reps that he's had, it is preseason, but if he at least shows, here's another day where it's all about me, listen, that could go a long way in swaying the coaches, whether they start Cam or not. At least they've seen more of Mac in that situation, that starting role.
Well, absolutely. Taking advantage of your opportunities is what it's all about, and Mac Jones seems to be doing just that. But look, let's switch gears here because there is no quarterback competition in Big D, but we're still keeping a very close eye on the condition of Dak as Week 1 approaches. And good news, everybody, yesterday, for the first time since July 27th, Dak took team drills during practice, showing no rust, no limit on his ability to get the ball down the field. So is Dak pushing for more reps? Here's his coach, Mike McCarthy.
Definitely. He's a cage lion. He's a competitor. It's just really not the same answer for David. He brings that competitiveness and, and expertise to not only the quarterback position, but he makes the whole practice better because the way he approaches it and, just his warm-up before practice is game-like. So he treats it the way you'd love to see all your players, treat it. And he's definitely one of the examples you use for the young players.
A caged lion. That's a compliment right there. And the Cowboys definitely with a big test early on with the Cowboys versus the Bucs going down Week 1. That is exactly 2 weeks from tonight, so we'll get ready for that one. Okay, Sam, what is the ceiling for the Cowboys this season?
Yeah, well, the Cowboys are a playoff team, but I think that's as far as it goes. They're going to make the playoffs and lose in the first round. The division is weak. Washington, I think, is the biggest challenge for the Dallas Cowboys. New York is trying to figure out their quarterback situation. Is Daniel Jones the guy or is he not? We always see in Philadelphia as well. We don't know what's going on there. And so I think the Dallas Cowboys can be and will be a playoff team. I think they'll win the division. The question is when you start going against teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs and teams like the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs and teams like the LA Rams in the playoffs, will you be able to win those games? That's where I don't think Dallas is at yet. I think they obviously defensively will be a ton better with Dan Quinn stepping in and helping that defense. They were bottom of the league last year. Dan Quinn is a phenomenal defensive coordinator. We saw what he did in Seattle, 2013 and 2014, number 1 and number 2 defense when he was there. So the defense will be better. The weapons will be back. Offensive line is healthy. So the Cowboys are going to be in the playoffs, but that's as far as it goes for them this year.
Sam, let me ask you a question.
Please.
Who do you think Dallas will lose to in the first round of the playoffs? Let the world hear.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Cowboys are going to lose to the Washington football team.
Oh my
in the
goodness.
playoffs. So both the Dallas
You see what I have to deal with, America? You see this, right? Okay.
People got to understand the Washington football team last year won the division, went to the playoffs. They played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tight with a fourth-string quarterback. Taylor Heineke was taking graduate classes, and then he got called back 2 weeks later. And that team, that defense, that coaching staff, Ron Rivera, they went and gave the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers a run for their money. And that same defense that was intact last year, Daron Payne, Chase Young, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, 4 first-round picks. And oh, by the way, Jamin Davis, a first-round pick linebacker out of Kentucky, the guy who Ron Rivera compares to Luke Kuechly. That defense right there, defense wins championships, as we all know. That defense is still intact, number one. Number two, you've got Terry McLaurin. People call him Scary Terry as well. You got Curtis Samuel on the offensive side. Yes, the question is what you see on the screen. Which Ryan Fitzpatrick are you going to get? Are you going to get Fitzmagic, as some say, or Fitztragic? We don't know. But even if you get Fitztragic, I believe that not only that the football team has a culture, but Ron Rivera has built a culture in Washington that knows how to win, number one. Number two, now to the Dallas Cowboys. We all know the Cowboys have been up and the Cowboys have been down. But I look at this. I look at a healthy offensive line. 3 of their 5 returning starters are back and healthy. Number one. Number two, I look at Ezekiel Elliott. Like, Ezekiel Elliott lost, 10, 15 pounds in the offseason? Does anyone understand how hard it is to lose that kind of weight in a few months? Like,
I don't want to find out.
That's dedication. And so you've got Ezekiel Elliott dedicated. CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper is healthy. And so I think the Cowboys and the Washington football team will be in the playoffs. I think Dallas wins the division. I think they lose to Washington in the first round.
After all that talking, you still think the Cowboys win the division?
Yeah, absolutely.
But will lose to Washington. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think both teams make it. I think we'll be surprised that Dallas wins the division. Their offense is talented. They are really, really talented. But when it comes to winning championships, I think defense wins championships.
Okay.
Lewis, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I've said all along, I think Washington's going to win this division. I think Dallas's upside, their ceiling is division winner. I don't think they have enough to deal with the top division winners throughout the rest of the NFC. They can't deal with Green Bay. They're not going to be able to deal with Tampa. They're not going to be able to deal with whoever ultimately comes out of the West. All right, so they're just not going to be able to. Now, I've always said that the Dallas Cowboys are always surrounded by irrational expectations because they're America's team. Now they're on Hard Knocks. I mean, did you see that drone footage of flying through the star? I mean, I was phenomenal. Dang. I mean,
it was phenomenal.
I'm all in. I'm all in on Dallas as far as all the glitz and the glamour and all. And I get where the expectations come from. Hell, I have high expectations of them too after seeing that drone footage. But the reality is this: that there's too many unknowns. Especially when you're talking about, winning football at the highest level is a 3-phase proposition. It's not just about Dak throwing for 5,000 yards and CD and Amari and Ezekiel. I mean, those guys are all great. I love those guys. I would not want to play against them. Those guys are big-time playmakers. But we know that it's a 3-phase proposition when you're talking about winning playoff games and getting ultimately to the Super Bowl, which is where Jerry Jones said he would do anything to get back to. And by 3 phases, that means special teams and defense have to hold up their end of the bargain. I like Dan Quinn. I like his energy. I like his pedigree. I like where he comes from. I'm all in on the whole Seattle mantra of playing fast and physical and relentless and rushing the passer and having big, strong secondary guys and knocking the crap out of people. They haven't proven anything, though, yet. Nothing. And last year, their defense was flat out embarrassing. So he has to kind of have them unlearn everything that they learned under Mike Nolan and start over from scratch. That's why I've said all along, you really want to talk about what Dallas' ceiling is going to be, don't talk to me about Dak and Zeke and Amar. We know what those guys can do. Tell me this. Tell me what kind of year Micah Parsons is going to have. Tell me what kind of year Trayvon Diggs is going to have. Tell me what those guys are going to do. Tell me if Leighton Vander Esch is going to stay healthy. Tell me what Jalen Smith is going to do, and I'll tell you what Dallas' upside ultimately is going to be. Because I don't know what it's going to be yet.
Can't be worse.
Well, let me tell you. No. Let me tell you. Lewis.
It can always be worse.
Lewis, let me tell you. So there are Lewis, check this out. There are no questions about Dallas's offense, right? You could say Dak's arm, maybe is he healthy? Dallas offensively is fine. Defensively has been the issue. Dan Quinn is the answer to the defensive question. And so everyone talks about how bad
Dan Quinn's not playing.
Well, check it out. But he's coaching, and coaching matters. Let's go to Vic Fangio. Go to Vic Fangio
Sure.
and the Chicago Bears in 2015. Vic Fangio is well known as one of the best defensive minds in football. The Chicago Bears in 2014 were the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL. 32. That's worse because there are only 32 teams. Vic Fangio comes in 2015. They go from 32 to 19. It's not amazing, but it's better. He's building a culture. 2016, they go to number 9, right? Still getting better. 2017, you drop a little bit to 10. In 2018, remember that 2018 Chicago Bears defense that everyone talked about, the best defense in the league, number one defense because of a coordinator. Yes, there were new players on the team, but a coordinator can change everything. And we saw that even with Dan Quinn in Seattle when he came in and took them to the number one defense in 2013 and 2014. And so, yes, the question can be, does Dallas have the players, the personnel to play the kind of defense that Dan Quinn is used to playing? That question still needs to be answered. But will they be better on defense? The answer is absolutely yes. Now on special teams, briefly, John Fossil. We all know him, Bones, right? Like, he's one of the best coordinators, special teams coordinators in the NFL. We all saw with LA Rams, like all the trick plays, like he's the expert when it comes to special teams. And so, like, yes, there's no questions offensively outside of Dak's arm, which we're all talking about. Is he healthy or is he not? But defensively, and this is why I believe that the Dallas Cowboys will in fact make the playoffs and will in fact win the division, because defensively, Dan Quinn is answering those questions with guys like Jalen Smith, with guys like Leighton Vander Esch, with guys like Micah Parsons. With that, he's answering those questions defensively, and it starts now, and that's what he's doing.
Acho, I gotta stop you because I was with you. I'm with you on the Cowboys winning the division. What gets me is you laid out all this evidence for why the Cowboys will be better than last year, and then still turn around and said that they're going to lose to Washington in the first round. I am with you on the Cowboys, and to Lewis's point, I don't think this defense will be worse. I don't think it can be worse. Last year, when you talk about points per game given up, they were 28th. When you talk about yards per game given up last year, 23rd. Yes, statistically, sure, it could drop to 32, but based on all the evidence that Acho has pointed out here, I don't think Dan Quinn will allow that to happen. And that's why I'm high on the Cowboys, provided Dak is healthy. Like, I'm high on the Cowboys in this division. This division is not good. And so when you think of the ceiling, I don't see them getting to the NFC title game. And that's the thing. They have the potential, but we have repeatedly been disappointed by this Cowboys team. So that's why I'm more reserved. But losing to Washington in the first round is a bit, that's interesting.
Well, let me tell you why. So we presented the case for the Dallas Cowboys. Let me just tell you why. And Lewis, I'd love to hear from you on this as well, because Kimberly, she's kind of she's not with me all the way. But let me tell you why the Washington football team is legit, right? Why I put them over the Cowboys when it comes to the playoffs. But
not to win the division. This is the sticking point. Not to win the division, but to win in the playoffs. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, New York Giants did it when they won the Super Bowl, right? Like, you don't have to be your division winner to go and win a Super Bowl, go win a playoff game. But that's not my point. My point is this: like, coaching matters. Once again, going back, not even defensive coaching, head coaching. Ron Rivera, 2-time Coach of the Year. Like, he's building a culture, the same culture we saw in Carolina. With Carolina, like Washington's not there yet. I believe Washington is a quarterback away from where they want to be. But the same culture that they built in Carolina, that same culture that you're really seeing shades of that with the Buffalo Bills. Sean McDermott was there with him as well. That same culture that we're seeing, I think you're seeing that culture in Washington as well. And so when it comes to coaching, like, I put Ron Rivera above Mike McCarthy when it comes to coaching when it matters. And so that's why I got both those teams making the playoffs, but I have Washington edging the Cowboys out.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think Washington has a resolve and a level of toughness on their football team where it matters the most, which is, look, I'm with you on the whole Ron Rivera thing, and I like Mike McCarthy. I love Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, I've known him for a long time, greater than 20 years, all right? But I believe that this football, where it matters the most on the football field, Washington has a bunch of guys that can flat out play now. They can. I mean, and they are built strong down the middle. This is a football team that has leadership and playmakers at all the right spots, and I think when it matters the most, they will make the plays if they were to match up head-to-head in a playoff game, more so than what Dallas will at this point. I just believe that. Number two, getting back to Dallas and the whole Dan Quinn argument, you know, Acho, when you laid out the whole scenario about how Chicago went from being one of the worst defenses in the league to being one of the best under Vic Fangio, who all of us have tremendous, tremendous affection for and respect his competency. That was a 4-year process you laid out. That wasn't come in 1 year, overhaul all the people, all the personnel, implement your scheme, and bam, you go from worst to first. That was a 4-year process. We're not talking 3 years down the road right now with the Cowboys. We're talking about this season. What is the tangible effect he's going to have on this football team as it relates to winning that division and being a playoff and title contender ultimately? And I just don't see it. Now, look, I'm as big a fan of Dak and Zeke and Amari and CD as anyone, but I just don't see it. I think this is Washington's time for this division. And if Washington can find a quarterback, if they can actually get a good quarterback, one that is on the level of all the excitement surrounding these young quarterbacks that came out this year, look out, because that team is set up for long-term success.
Okay, well, there's one team in the division I heard no one mention. That would be the Giants. I don't think anyone's worried about them edging out any other team to win the division. But I do want to make a note that Saquon Barkley will be back at the joint practice with the Patriots today. He did sit out yesterday for personal reasons. So, Lewis, as always, good to see you. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
You bet.
All right, guys.
Thank you. Y'all have fun.
Wait until you hear what Matthew Stafford said about his expectations for the seasons in LA. And did he take a parting shot at the Lions? We'll let you be the judge. Plus, surprise, surprise, Urban Meyer officially names Trevor Lawrence his starter. He is a long way from Detroit in many aspects, and Matt Stafford likes it that way. He's entering his 13th season and until now has never even been close to tasting a championship, but now finds himself being plugged into a Rams system that is ready to win under head coach Sean McVay. Stafford had this to say on what he wants out of the rest of his career. Quote, I just want to play in big games, you know. I want to have opportunities to make big-time plays in the fourth quarter against really good teams in big moments rather than a 1 o'clock game on a Sunday somewhere. That quote is from ESPN's cover story by Seth Wickersham. And Sam, you know, the man makes a really good point. He wants bigger things out of his career, and he has seemingly moved on to bigger pastures, greener pastures. So do you think that Stafford is going to win a Super Bowl in L.A.?
I do. I absolutely do. I think he will. And based on the model that's been presented before, Matthew Stafford, we all know he has a phenomenal arm talent. Not if everyone doesn't know before, they're going to know now. In 2011, he threw for over 5,000 yards and 41 touchdowns. Like, this dude can do things with the ball that we all talk about with Patrick Mahomes and we all awe over and gush over. We just don't watch it because Detroit's games are on 1 o'clock on Sunday with 5, 6, 7 other games. He's got 5 primetime games this year. But here's the reason why I think he'll win a Super Bowl. He's got not only a number 1 defense from last year, the number 1 rated defense with guys like Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Yes, they have a new defensive coordinator, but still top defense. He's got an offensive line that can protect him. Andrew Whitworth, he's got a left tackle. And also he's got a brilliant offensive-minded coach who can get him where he needs to go. I think the LA Rams are going to be, honestly, in the NFC Championship game this year. I think they could be that good. A motivated Matt Stafford, who's 33 years old. Like, Tom Brady's 46. So, like, let's not talk about he's old. A motivated Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, offensive weapons. And then, yes, it's a strong division, but, man, I think that with the weapons on offense, weapons on defense, the offensive line, just traded for Sony Michel, the LA Rams were, in a lot of ways, the quarterback away last year and the year before, and when they were in the Super Bowl before. I think that Matthew Stafford can take them there, not this year, but next year.
Okay, next year.
Who was the quarterback when they went to the Super Bowl?
Who was their quarterback? Mm-hmm. Jared Goff.
So here's my thing. The narrative out of LA seems to be, if only we had a competent quarterback. Man, we'd really have done something. Y'all got to the Super Bowl. Because I covered that game. I was there. And I watched Sean McVay, like, yuck it up with Bill Belichick. Like, oh, this is so great. I'm with Bill. Yeah. And then I watched the offensive genius get completely embarrassed. And, like, that's the truth. And Sean McVay, if he was sitting here right now, he would tell you, yeah, that was not my finest day. But it's not just the Jared Goff thing. Like, it seems like we're just kicking Jared Goff and it's like, oh, okay, now that he's gone, now we can really do something. And I don't think that's fair to Jared Goff. And I understand Matt Stafford, because when you think about quarterbacks under a ton of pressure, to me, Matt Stafford is at the top of the list. Might be, you could question whether it's Dak 1, him 2, or Stafford 1 and Dak 2. Because Matt Stafford is a guy that everybody believes in. Everybody says, oh, if he ever had, consistent weapons, if he was out of Detroit, well, okay, now you're out of Detroit. Now, now the stakes are really high because Sean McVay was labeled the baby genius, was labeled the offensive guru. And since then, we have seen a Rams team push everything to the middle of the table. Draft picks. When was the last time they had a first-round draft pick? You know what I mean? Push everything into the middle of the table, said this is our time. And they haven't won a Super Bowl. And so it's not that I don't think Stafford is capable of winning a Super Bowl. It's what's happening all around in LA. It might be sunny in LA all the time, but it is not always sunny in that building. So that to me is the real issue, because you mentioned, Acho, oh, no, I'm taking my time. I see that hand getting ready to rebut because you're in the Stephen A chair. Oh, no. So when you see
a lot of power in that chair.
When you see, that you mentioned the defensive coach, like they got a new defensive coordinator. It's not just a new defensive coordinator. There are like 7 new assistants, including an offensive line coach. Andrew Whitworth, one of the best offensive tackles in the game when healthy. He's also almost 40. That's not to say he's not good. Andrew, you are so good. But when do you think they'll win a Super Bowl? This year? Maybe next year? Okay,
You said next year. You said next year, right, Tim?
Okay, how old will Andrew be then? You know what I mean? Like, we talk about the Steelers and the offensive line and moving pieces around and new coordinators, new coaches, all of that. Well, the Rams have to deal with that too. So I know that it's real great to get excited about the Rams, but to me, it's internally. And I think there's way more pressure on Sean McVay than Matt Stafford, and that's saying a lot.
And what do you think about that? Who do you think there's more pressure on, Stafford or McVay?
Well, but before I get there, I gotta address Kimberly this conversation. You said you're gonna take my time before I rebut, so allow me.
I'll see my time.
Allow me to rebut.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. Okay, go ahead.
Allow me to rebut. And so you made a phenomenal point. That in that Super Bowl, that 2019 Super Bowl, Sean McVay got exposed.
Yes.
And you know what was interesting? A few weeks earlier, during the 2018 season, Sean McVay also got exposed when the number 1 rated offensive team in the LA Rams came to Chicago and played the number 1 rated defense in the Chicago Bears. Right. And that was when I was on that team. Mm-hmm. That was when I knew, Sean McVay got exposed. And so when they went to that Super Bowl and you saw that New England ran the exact same style of defenses, the exact same coverages that you saw that the Bears run, that's when I knew, this is going to be a problem. But here's the kicker.
Kicker.
Here's the kicker, and here's the only reason why I think the LA Rams are going to be a Super Bowl contender this year and a Super Bowl champion next year. Here's the reason. A good quarterback can erase bad coaching. A good quarterback can make an okay coach look like a phenomenal coach. I've experienced firsthand. I've seen Matthew Stafford.
So McVay's just an okay coach.
That's the thing. So the point.
Okay, you see it. You guys see it, right? No, you guys see it too. Who's the bad coach now?
Sean McVay got exposed.
Is he a genius or is he a bad coach? I just want to know what are we doing?
Sean McVay got exposed in the Super Bowl. He was labeled as this brilliant coach. We met him Chicago met them in the regular season. They got exposed. Then he got exposed again in the Super Bowl, right? But what happens when you get a quarterback like Matthew Stafford? Not a rookie, not a second year, not a third year trying to figure it out. A seasoned vet, a guy who can throw from every angle, a guy who can look defensive backs off, look safeties off, a guy who can make a play right even when you think it's going to go wrong. That's who Matthew Stafford is. And so even if Sean McVay said, I had a bad day, right? You have a bad day. Even when you have a bad day, with a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, he will make your bad days look good. Like, that's what he does. And so if it wasn't Matthew Stafford, right before this, I'm like, man, Rams, they're not going anywhere. That was my belief. That was my opinion. But then Matthew Stafford came into the picture. A motivated Matthew Stafford came into the picture. A defense that, though they do have a new defensive coordinator, Raheem Morris, though they're not going to be the number 1 defense this year, we all understand that. They still have weapons on defense. They still have a brilliant offensive mind with Sean McVay and a quarterback who can erase. He's a great eraser, right? He can erase all the wrongs that may happen in a game.
Sacho, I'm trying, just make it make sense for me. How do we go from... You did not think the Rams were a Super Bowl contender or even going to win a Super Bowl, but now that they have Stafford, like, this is a team that that felt, hey, if we just get a quarterback, we are good.
Yeah.
Sacho's now telling me that no, the rest of it wasn't good enough. Like Stafford can erase all ills on this team. Is Sean McVay a good coach or he's not a good coach?
Well, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be clear. Like we saw the season last year. It wasn't good enough.
Right.
right? 8-8, barely making the playoffs, right? They crawled into the playoffs. We didn't know with the last 3 weeks in the season if they would make it, would Arizona make it, would Chicago make it. They crawled into the playoffs. They didn't do well. Like, we know that wasn't good enough. So that's point number one. Point number two, defensively, right? Brandon Staley coached me in Chicago. I know the brilliant-minded defense he is. He was their defensive coordinator last year. That's why they have the number one defense. Brandon Staley is now the head coach for the LA Chargers. He is gone. So I know for a fact that their defense won't be as good as it was last year, even with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I know that for a fact. But what I also know for a fact is that Matthew Stafford is that dude. He's that dude.
So like, there's more pressure on him than McVay, is what you believe?
No, I don't. I believe the pressure's on McVay. It's got to be on McVay because this is the second first-round pick quarterback that he's had a chance to coach in 5 years. Who gets that opportunity? Nobody gets an opportunity to coach 2 first overall pick, number 1 overall. Not like the second pick or the third pick or 31st or third. Number 1 overall pick. So I think Matthew Stafford is going to ball and going to shine. But if he doesn't, if the LA Rams don't go and at least compete for an NFC championship game, because we all know that Tampa Bay. No, I said this year that they're going to be in the NFC championship game. Next year they won't win the Super Bowl. The reason they're not winning this year is because Tampa Bay is still Tampa Bay and Tom Brady
Brady's still around.
Tom Brady. If they don't, if the LA Chargers aren't a playoff team, aren't going to the NFC championship game this year with that quarterback, then Sean McVay, you've got a lot more questions than answers.
Okay, well, there's motivation all the way around. McVay has motivation. Also, of course, Stafford has motivation. He has thrown 282 touchdown passes, never had a playoff win, and that is the most in NFL history. So that is a little food for thought right there. Okay, guys, we have a lot more NFL on the way, and I promise you, you will not want to miss Sam Acho going scorched earth on Urban Meyer. What is it about the coach that is rubbing Acho the wrong way? Plus, it's about to be prime time in the daytime. Coach Prime, don't call him Dion, is about to join the show. Do not miss that interview. A huge surprise. Urban Meyer has finally named Trevor Lawrence as the official Week 1 starter against the Texans. No one saw that coming, right? No one. Okay, he started both preseason games. He's going to start in this week's finale. So here's Urban on what took so long to make that decision.
Was that sort of your strategy ahead of time that you had a certain time set in mind when you wanted to do it?
I did, but it's a 3-week preseason as opposed to a 4. We do have the bye week afterwards, but I think as we continue, it's a matter of a little bit of repetition now. So we wanted him to earn it, as we do with every position. We felt he has after the last night's performance was. It was good, obviously not great, but we didn't run the ball very well. But I kind of in my mind had that as after the second preseason that we kind of have to get someone ready to play in 3 weeks.
Okay, he had to earn his spot. And look who's here, Swagoo, Marcus Spears. How you doing? Marcus, I want to start with you here. Good to see you. Good to see you. Sam was already commenting on the salmon you're bringing on this lovely day. So good to see you.
Yes.
Yes, I am looking good. Thank you.
Marcus, we already know Jacksonville has that oh no line. So is Urban Meyer going to help or hurt Lawrence this season?
I think you're going to hurt him. And look, I'm only basing this off of what I've watched. Like that last game against the Saints, if anybody has seen me since that game was played, I was peed off about the body language on the sideline. And then you think about looking at Trevor Lawrence run for his life that entire game, and no answers were being given to him or no adjustments being made from an offensive plan. And I understand that they had offensive linemen out, and DJ Chark, who is probably their best receiver, was out. Very unfortunate they lost ETN. But when I look at this whole situation, like I'm not just focused on this year alone. When you take a guy 1 overall, and then you get him in a situation like in this preseason game where these reps are imperative for a young rookie that's going to start the season off, and he comes to the sideline and his coaches look like they just lost all their dogs. And I'm trying to figure out, well, what the hell is Trevor Lawrence supposed to feel like when he walk over there on the sideline and everybody looks disappointed and disgusted? So based on that, right, like we all trying to project in the future. I'll be so glad when these games start getting played so we can actually start talking about things that are really happening on the field. But the bottom line is, man, when you got a first-year guy, face of the franchise, he's supposed to change everything about Jacksonville and their fortune. And remember, this team a few years ago was in the AFC Championship game. So they've had some success within this organization. Now, since then, Jalen Ramsey departs, Calais Campbell departs. Trevor Lawrence is your future, Jacksonville. I don't know if Urban Meyer is. I don't know if Urban Meyer is going to stick it out if things go really, really bad. So no, I'm concerned about Urban Meyer hurting Trevor Lawrence more than helping him. And you know, to each his own. But y'all know me. And I try to be optimistic as much as possible. But looking at what I looked at against the Saints and thinking about everything that's transpired since this guy been drafted, we had the Tebow saga. Now we got this situation where he's thrust into a game against starters and the coaches on the sideline looking like, hey, man, good luck to you out there because we don't know what the hell we doing over here. All of that stuff transpiring just leads me to believe that Urban Meyer's going to end up hurting Trevor Lawrence more than helping him. And y'all, I got to put this out there. Listen. Today my cheat meal day, and I just had a chicken, egg, and cheese sandwich from Chick-fil-A, and that thing was bussin'. So I'm hyped right now.
He's ready. He's got all the energy.
That's how I feel about Jacksonville. Go ahead, man.
Hey, I respect it, man. I respect it, especially on the cheat day. I need to get my cheat day in. Hey, but check me out. So I'm with you that Urban Meyer is not helping Trevor Lawrence, but for a different reason. My reasoning is that he's trying to get too involved in the play calling. Right? So you hired an offensive coordinator in Darrell Bevell. That's who he hired. He interviewed all these people. And he said one of the best qualities, and I'll read you what he said. He said one of the best qualities in Darrell Bevell, he said, was his ability to adapt to my vision. That was one of the things that Urban Meyer said about his offensive coordinator. He also said that he has a real clear vision. This is Urban Meyer speaking, of what he wants the offense to look like. Here's the deal, Urban, this is not college anymore. In the NFL, you have offensive coordinators who spend their entire lifetimes game planning against really good defenses. It's not Ohio State, it's not Florida. Like these defenses are legit. And so you have to allow your offense, and that's what we saw. Like we saw the New Orleans Saints dominate the Jacksonville Jaguars in a preseason game. They showed a few of their blitzes, showed a little bit of pressure, dominate. And when I watched that game, I said, oh, this is what it's going to look like. This is New Orleans Saints versus typical Jacksonville Jaguars. Urban Meyer needs to get out of the way. He needs to allow his coaches to coach, his coordinators to coordinate. You can't talk about your real clear vision or your coordinator's ability to adapt to your vision. No, it's not about your vision right now. Right now, you need to be a manager of people. Let your leaders lead. Let your coaches coach. Until Urban Meyer does that, Trevor Lawrence is not going to be successful in the NFL.
Acha makes a great point. Here's the problem. Do we think Urban Meyer jumped out the booth, jumped out from the media to coach an NFL team for the first time, not to do it his way, not to have control of everything? Because let me tell you, it is Urban's way in Jacksonville. It's nobody else's. And that, to me, is the interesting thing. Can't say nothing about Urban as a college coach. That guy is a great college coach. We have not seen him win in the NFL yet, right? But Urban could potentially hurt Trevor simply because Urban is a rookie too. He's a rookie head coach. And when I talk to people in the league, they talk about, I don't know, man. Urban might be in. He got to understand this is not college. To Acho's point, this is not college. These are grown men. You can't employ the same tactic. You can't tactics. You can't manage a coaching staff the same way. Drafting picks, taking players that people in the building may not have loved or had other opinions about and going full steam ahead like, no, this is what I want. That's the issue. Maybe it works out. Maybe Urban's way will be the best way. But why everybody is nervous right now for Trevor is because what we saw over the week, that was not what we saw Monday, cannot happen. Cannot happen come week one. Where Trevor Lawrence is running for his life, no, sir. So,
I ain't nervous, Kim. I ain't nervous. I'm scared as hell.
Okay,
I'm scared as hell. I'm going to tell you, I ain't nervous.
Yes.
I'm scared.
Right. So let's get this straight. Okay. Everybody here believes that Urban Meyer is going to hurt Trevor Lawrence.
Has the potential to really damage this kid.
The potential to hurt him is better than the potential to maybe help him. Yeah. That's not a good sign, everyone. And also, let me just make it clear, this is the fourth quarterback that the Jacksonville franchise has taken in the first round. The former three have posted a record of 53 and 91 overall, and that is not a fate that we want to fall on Trevor Lawrence. But Marcus, you my friend, with your Chick-fil-A sandwich in your stomach are sticking with us. And thank goodness for that, because the rumors are swirling in Foxborough about who built Mac Jones, taking advantage of every opportunity, especially with Cam Newton sitting out of practice for the third straight day yesterday due to those COVID-19 protocols. Jones won Wednesday's joint practice with the Giants, going 35 of 40 in the practice and 11 and 11, and also 7-on-7 drills. And at one point, he completed 18 straight passes. Not too shabby. Now Cam Newton will be back at practice today. So we also have Marcus Spears also still in the house with us. But Sam, let's start with you. Is the Patriots quarterback competition more about Cam Newton, or is it more about Mac Jones?
Oh, this is 100% more about Cam Newton and his dominance this preseason. And so think about it. Like, everyone thinks that this was supposed to be Mac Jones' job a long, long time ago. First round pick. He looks good at every turn. 18 straight completions, 35 of 40. Yet for whatever reason, today's practice just started and Cam Newton has the reps with the ones. Right? For whatever reason, after that first phenomenal preseason game that we saw Mac Jones do, Cam Newton one-upped it and went 8 for 9 for 103 yards and a touchdown in the second preseason game. Every single time that Mac Jones has tried to push Cam Newton has only gotten better. And so for me, and I think for anyone who's watching or listening, Cam Newton has shown why competition matters. It makes everyone better. But it doesn't, just because you miss a couple days, people say, oh, he missed a couple days and Mac Jones looked great. That doesn't matter. Cam is the starter. Cam has shown he's the starter. Until Cam gives it away, he's not going to lose that starting spot.
Charlie, pose the question again.
Who's the quarterback competition about more? Is it about Cam Newton or Mac Jones?
It's about Mac Jones, guys. And it became about Mac Jones when he was the 15th overall pick. That's when it started. Now, I'm with you, Acho. I think Cam should start. Like, that's not what the question is. The question is, who is this about? This is about Mac Jones, because every time Mac Jones completes a pass, there is 9,000 articles written about the future of the quarterback with the New England Patriots. And look, Cam knows and understands that he is auditioning for other teams that's going to be looking for the services of a starting quarterback next year. I firmly believe that. And that's not an indictment on Cam. That's just where the Patriots are going to go in their future. It's the first offensive draft pick in the last, I don't know how long. But they took a quarterback that fit their scheme and their MO perfectly. And this is what I was talking about prior to the draft, when everybody was screaming about Mac Jones going to San Francisco. And I said, no, I'm going to pause on that, because I don't see top 3 talent in Mac Jones. But if you get him at 15 and he turns out to perform like he did at Alabama, you got a great draft pick for years to come. And I believe that's what the New England Patriots have. This is about Mac Jones' maturation. That doesn't mean that Cam Newton won't start, and that doesn't mean Cam won't play well throughout the duration of the season. But I'm telling y'all right now, the first sign of trouble, the New England Patriots at their quarterback spot, based on everything they did this offseason, it's going to quickly become about Mac Jones playing. But right now, it's about Mac Jones' development, maturation, and the things that he's been doing to show them and validate them taking him 15th overall. Now, all of that being said, Cam Newton is doing fine. Cam Newton has played well. He's answered the questions that you need to answer in the offseason. Bill Belichick alluded to this being an unfortunate situation, a misunderstanding about Cam having to miss those days of practice. But those days of practice matter, and Mac Jones looked well. And that will be a part of the decision-making process if anything goes awry with Cam Newton. But this about Mac Jones, y'all. Who? Mac Jones.
Mac Jones. I'm glad we're all in agreement that week 1 we should see Cam on the field. But Marcus, let me ask you. You said first sign of trouble. Where is Mac Jones going to be playing next year?
He'll be in New England.
Okay. Where's Cam Newton going to be playing next year?
I have no idea.
Exactly.
Zero.
Exactly. Because I think that's the point. Because right now, Mac Jones can't. Right now, we think Cam Newton so far has been that guy. Sam laid it out. Like Mike Reese, great Mike Reese, tweeting early highlights from practice. Cam Newton leads off the first red zone, 7-on-7 drill, 2 for 3 with the best ball, a bullet in the end zone. You think Cam Newton just decided, okay, I was away, but no. Move aside, rookie. I'm coming back. You know, like right now we think Cam is that dude, but you need Cam to, you talked about first sign of trouble. So it is Cam's job in your mind right now, while Mac is developing.
Yeah.
So the question for me is, what is Cam gonna do? How does he perform in practices? How does he make the choice very difficult or actually make it really easy for Belichick and say, okay, we're gonna go with the veteran because he has time in the system. He is healthy right now. We have a better roster. I spent all that money in the offseason. I'm not trying to go 7-10 this year, you know? Like, it's about Cam, what he's able to do, and when he falters, that we'll see Mac Jones. Like, I feel like when we see Mac Jones is dependent on Cam, and that's why, to me, Cam is the answer. This is about Cam. I hear you breathing, Marcus. I hear you.
No.
You're sighing my.
No, because I gotta bring this up. Okay, last year, all right. Remember going through the season last year, and the whole question was, when is Jarrett Stidham gonna get in? Because Cam is struggling. That was the conversation that was revolving around the entire NFL.
Absolutely.
At that moment, it became about Jarrett Stidham. Yeah. Y'all, we are watching a quarterback competition right now, and even though we all are in agreement that Cam has done nothing to relinquish it, Mac Jones has done every damn thing to make it tight. That's why this competition is about Mac Jones showing the New England Patriots that I don't know if they're going to make a decision to start him week 1, but he's done enough to show the Patriots that, hey, I'm over here. I'm ready. I've grasped the system just in case Cam Newton struggles like he did last year. So look, I get it. Like, the competition, honestly, to answer the question, is about both of these guys. But the guy that had the most to gain and the least to lose is who the competition is about, and that is Mac Jones. Because, to the point again, when you draft him 15th overall, and we know now, we have enough of a sample size to know that Bill Belichick has an affinity for Cam Newton. I think Bill Belichick wants to see Cam Newton succeed, like a lot of people that root for Cam Newton, and some don't. But the bottom line is, you still had to go out and take a guy that you thought would carry your team into the future, and that is Mac Jones. And even in the draft, you could pull the tape. Prior to, I said, if Mac Jones makes it to New England, this is a match made in heaven. And obviously the correlation between Nick Saban and Bill Belichick and the type of system and scheme that they run is conducive to Mac having success. But now Mac has proved that I can have success with what y'all have set up here. Now it's about Cam holding him off. This competition was about Mac Jones, though, and seeing not only if you drafted the right guy, but if you had a guy just in case Cam start tripping.
You didn't need to sign. They didn't have to sign Cam Newton, right? This offseason, they had to bring him back, but they did.
But they didn't know how the draft was going to shake out.
No, but I'm just saying overall.
Like, they didn't know that.
I'll say this. Swagoo, you made some phenomenal points, but the last thing that you said was probably the most important. None of this would be a conversation if Cam hadn't been balling, right? So when I see competition, is this competition about Cam Newton or Mac Jones? You said last year, man, Jarrett Stidham. This year, man, Mac Jones. But all of a sudden, Cam is still coming up. He's still going with the ones. He's still fielding and fending off Mac Jones.
Yeah.
And so to the question of who is this competition about? Yes, Mac Jones has more to gain and less to lose, all those kinds of things. But this should have been Mac Jones' job a long, long time ago. It really should have.
But Joe,
first overall pick, but
Sam, listen, man. This became about Mac Jones when they took him 15th, bro. This competition.
But why is it not about him now?
You're not going to win with this man. He had Chick-fil-A.
It's about Mac.
You're not going to be able to get to him.
Mac.
Why it's not about? But
also, look, this is about, guys, in lady to my right or left rather. This is about something also that we can't ignore. This is about the COVID-19 protocol that all the teams must follow. Yeah. And we don't know Mac Jones' vaccination status, but we do know that Cam Newton has been very vocal about being opposed to the vaccine. So look, he had to sit out this week because he didn't get the vaccine. He ran into some trouble. These circumstances could very well happen later on in the season. In that case, if he's not already starting, Mac Jones could be the one to step in. It could be his job to keep from that point on. So Charlie, that is something we're going to be paying attention to.
let me ask everybody this question. The competition in Chicago is about who?
Also about Justin Fields, for sure. For sure. But
we in the
that's
same
different,
situation, bro.
That's
no, it's not.
Different.
Sancho.
It's different, bro.
Andy Dalton is a bridge. The competition is not about the bridge guy. It's about the guy that's going to take over your franchise.
But we all know,
these two guys are the franchises.
Right, but we all know, at least the media, the public, a lot of people know, man, this is Justin Fields' team sooner than later. Like, that's kind of the consensus. Sooner than later. With Mac and with Cam, like, there's some talk, man, Cam might carry this team this year, the whole year. Not just a couple weeks, not just 4, 8. Say it again.
It's a big might, okay, but we do have to leave it there. But Marcus, thank you so much. You provided me with the perfect segue because
I'm going to be in studio one day.
I will be too, so I'll see you there.
Pauses.
All right, Marcus, thank you so much. And speaking of the bridge guy, guess what? The Broncos quarterback battle is water under the bridge, literally, now that with Teddy Bridgewater is officially named the starter for Week 1. But can Denver cross the bridge into the playoffs? That debate up next. In a competition that Denver Broncos head coach Vic Fangio called even Steven in training camp and really damn close as recently as Tuesday afternoon, the Broncos officially have now announced Teddy Bridgewater as their starting quarterback. Bridgewater beating out third-year quarterback Drew Lock for the job. Now, the Broncos will be the 4th different team Bridgewater has started for in his NFL career and the 10th different starting quarterback for Denver since Peyton Manning, my guy, retired following the 2015 season. Kimberly, are the Broncos a playoff team now that Bridgewater has been named the starter?
I'm going to say yes. Despite the AFC, despite that division, I'm going to say yes. Maybe because we just want to see Teddy succeed.
We want to see him
Maybe
succeed.
we just want to see it happen. Especially given the arc of his career and the injury and all that stuff. But you look at this roster on defense, on offense. There's a reason people want to see Aaron Rodgers go to Denver. And Denver reportedly was interested in Rodgers. There was talk of with Deshaun Watson, could something come about there? I think when you look at this team, they have all the pieces. And when Teddy, go back and look at the Saints. 5-0 with the Saints. Now, granted, he started as the backup and he was just that seat filler for Drew Brees. But we've seen Teddy with a dominant defense, right? We've seen Teddy with lots of weapons. And he's been good. The one caveat, obviously, is Teddy is a guy that the Carolina Panthers were willing to let go of for a 6th-round pick, and they thought that Sam Darnold was an upgrade. But this is an opportunity for Teddy to sort of take this job, win this competition, take the job, and not let it go. And say, you know what? I may not be sexy. I may not be the sexy pick. I mean, he's got a nice strut, right? But I may not be the sexiest guy on the field, but I won't turn the ball over. I won't do the YOLO. Let me get that highlight reel throw. You know, we need a check down. Cool, we can get it. And he's got that veteran presence where at least you feel like, all right, we can be stable with Teddy because the rest of the pieces are just as good.
Right. Well, just because he does all of those things that you mentioned.
Go disagreeing with
just
me.
because he does, like Teddy Bridgewater could and most likely will do all of those things that you just announced, right? Take care of the football, manage the game, not be reckless with the ball, keep the team from turning the ball over. Even if he does all that, that still doesn't make the Denver Broncos a playoff team just yet. And here's why. So look at the division that they're in. The AFC West, I won't say it's loaded per se, but we all know about Kansas City.
It's loaded.
We all know about Kansas City. A lot of people are sleeping on the LA Chargers.
Oh, they shouldn't be. They should
sleeping on the LA Chargers, and the Raiders are still in that division. Like so, the Broncos will be better. There's no doubt about it. Defensively, they're going to be dominant. Pat Surtain, who's a dominant defensive back, I think he's going to play nickel there. I think he's going to be really good. You got Ronald Darby, you got Kyle Fuller on the defense. Noah Fant, Cortland Sutton. You have offensive weapons. Jerry Jeudy. You have weapons offensively. They will be better, but they won't be in the playoffs. There's just too much going on in the AFC West, in the AFC in total. I mean, you got to compete. Think about it. Like, there are only 7 playoff slots. Like, not everyone can get in. I'm just saying, like,
not everyone gets a trophy.
Right. So if you just go down the list,
participation awards here.
If you just go down the list, last year the AFC North had 3 teams make the playoffs. Like, look at, and then look at the South. 2 teams in the playoff. So there are only so many slots. And so Denver will be better. Their defense wasn't ranked great last year. They will be better this year, but it's not enough. Teddy Bridgewater this year so far, it's not going to be enough to take the Denver Broncos to the playoffs this year.
All right, well, should they miss the playoffs again this year, this will be their 6th consecutive season not getting into the playoffs that will actually surpass their streak for the longest streak of missing this, because right now it stands at 5. I cannot even get those words out. That's how bad they are, guys. That is how bad they are. We'll leave it there. Okay, let's keep it moving because we have a big guest coming up, the head coach of the Jackson State Tigers.
That's why I keep my foot on the gas. That's why I keep my foot on your throat. That's why I keep my hand around your neck, because I'm crazy enough to believe in every one of y'all. That's my expectation. Now, what's yours?
The man is a walking soundbite. This is going to be fun because it is prime time in the daytime with Deion Sanders, a.k.a. Coach Prime of the Jackson State University Tigers, joining us now. Thanks so much for being here. And notice I called you Coach because a few weeks ago you weren't very thrilled that you weren't addressed as Coach. And also we saw another instance of this. Jason Garrett also had some words to share with the media when they didn't address him as Coach. So I want to start there. Why is it so important for you to be addressed as Coach in your mind?
It's really not. It's really not. I was just really having fun. I was just really, no, baby, don't get me wrong. It really is. Because if you're a doctor, you want to be addressed as a doctor or this or that.
Fair.
And oftentimes we get into the arena. If it was reversed, that wouldn't have never been accepted what transpired that day. And I was just really trying to bring equality that day. And I went to one more question and asked this gentleman one more question. He was just disrespectful. And then they tried to lie on me. That was crazy. But it was funny. I had just got finished shooting during commercial with Coach Saban for a couple of days. And that was just in my mind. It was on my spirit. I was just really joking until he took it there and it became serious. But I'm elated. I'm happy. We're not going to let that downer mess up nothing that God has planned for us. I promise you on that.
Look, I think it is a fair point, though. You've earned the title. Coach is what it is. Okay, and it is your second season. Absolutely.
A coach, I've never called Coach Bowden Bobby. I've never, I would never do any of my coaches that I play for, I would never do that or work with or I didn't play for. I'm just old school and I have so much respect for, if you're the same age, I would say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. That's just how I was raised. In some kind of way, we got off that. But here at Jackson State University, we are back on that. And we're going to be consistent with that. I'm like that with my kids. So not just the kids are my biological kids, but the kids that plays for me.
Well, it is interesting because I think if you were an athlete at any point in your life, the people who were your coaches, it's just second nature to refer to them as coach. So I am completely with you on this one. Now, it is your second season at the helm at Jackson State. So what do you expect from the Tigers this season?
We revamped the whole darn roster. When I tell you that we improved at every position, not only on the darn field, off the field too, with the equipment room and the training rooms and every darn room, because I have an expectation and a commitment to excellence because I've seen that. I can only expect what I've seen, what I'm willing to give. I can't ask you to pick up paper around the university or on the practice field. I'm not picking up things. I can't ask you to do nothing that I'm not willing to do myself. And I'm thankful, I'm happy, elated that we captured all this on the documentary Coach Prime. We want to show you the diversity of the HBCUs, what we're up against, the lack thereof of resources. We're often underfunded and overlooked, but we want to show you everything because it's about time for us to be noticed and recognized that we have too many athletes that can prepare themselves to the next level, just not on the field, but off the field, to be professionals, not just professional athletes, but professionals in general.
Coach Prime, you had a successful playing career, 2 championships, obviously like multiple awards. You had a successful analyst career, right? You've done it all, and now you're going into coaching, right? This is your second year. Why did you want to coach?
Well, why not? See, I've been coaching since I really left football. I'll take that back. I've been coaching in football. You got to understand, when you reach a certain level on the field, the defensive coordinators come and sit with you and say, Prime, so what you look like? I said, I'll tell you what, give me that. Y'all take care of that. But give me this guy right here, and let's build a defense that way. Let's do this, let's do that. So when you're playing the game, you're really doing a whole lot of teaching, instructing, and guiding, and so many facets of that. Just who you are able to permeate amongst your team. And getting out of that, I started coaching youth leagues. I started coaching high schools. On the All-American game, I coached that for a decade, and then having this opportunity to go to the next level. And I had a couple Power 5 art interviews and knocked it out of the ballpark. But when God placed it in my spirit, hey, this is an opportunity right now, but this is what we're dealing with in our country. This is where I need you. I need you to answer this call. When God calls you collect, you better accept the charges. And that's what I did.
I love that you are joining us today. I want to know, what was it about Jackson State in particular that made you feel like, oh, this would be a really good partnership?
Well, historically, it's 5 Hall of Famers. Historically, it's a winning, not just program, but it's a winning traditional school that has birthed some incredible young men and women, not only on the athletic field, but in the business world, just in general. It's a school that's committed in a lot of aspects to excellence. In some way or another, they took a left where they should have stayed right. And it's up to me to get them back on course, because this is a wonderful university, and I love it. Why Jackson State? Why not? Why not? I was going to coach somewhere, and I'm thankful that the AD, Ashley Robinson, called me and stayed on my butt until I really saw the vision and I saw the light. And when it all clicked, it was a wrap. Then now it was time for me to bring my resources and help these kids go to the next level.
And well, so I have 3 kids myself, and you have children, and 2 of your sons are playing for you at Jackson State.
That's so cool.
It's cool, but I'm sure it could be frustrating as a dad versus a coach. How do you handle and manage being a dad wearing that hat versus wearing the hat of a coach? Because I can imagine how difficult that must be.
You're right.
Well, all through youth sports, my kids have played for me, and they know, don't call me daddy. There ain't no daddy ball, ain't none of this, especially when we're here. Now, time practice is over, and we're in my office. It's like my son came in the other day, Shiloh, the safety. He's like, Dad, this camp is off the chain. That was the first day of school Monday. Dad, look, hey, man, they out there on the yard. I said, son, well, what about your classes, Dad? I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But when I tell you, it ain't nothing like this. I said, well, compare it to South Carolina. You just said, nothing like this. Dad, I'm trying to tell you. So having those emotions, seeing how excited my kids are to finally be on campus, even in the pandemic stated time that we're in, but so elated to be on campus, to be surrounded by the students and to be in class and to be working on his goal and his dreams, and me being a father, to see them grow and propel themselves to the next level. It's wonderful. But I got 2 different kids now. I got one that's going to always give me joy, make me smile, and one is going to always get on my last nerve, and it's going to keep me on my knees to pray. And anybody's out there, the parents, you know what I'm talking about.
So when you were a player, you put on a show. That's why you know it's prime time. So you had some of these awesome on-the-field celebrations. But recently, the NFL announced harsher penalties for taunting. So I want to know, what do you think about the new rules?
I never taunted. I danced, I celebrated, but I would never belittle my opponent. Contrary to what people think, I've never spoke negativity to anybody. I've never spanked the ball in anybody's face. I've never said, hey, man, I'm going to dog you. I'm going to do this to you. I've never said that. Now, I high step. I dance. I put the hand behind the head, and I look back at it. I think they're looking back at it nowadays as well. But I look back at it just to see what I was doing and just having a good time. That's just what I want. I tried to bring joy to the game, but I never tried to belittle or downgrade my opponent. I didn't believe in that. I didn't grow up in that era.
So, I can't let you leave without asking you about the Cowboys and Dak. And the reason I want to ask you is because Dak, is returning from injury, but there seems to be even more eyes on him than usual and on the Cowboys in particular.
Yeah, he got paid. That's why eyes is on him, because he got paid. And when you receive, people expect. Trust me, anytime in life, if somebody gives you something, they expect something. So we expect a lot from Dak. We expect a lot from Zeke. We expect a lot from the defense. They revamped that, supposedly had revamped that. But you got to think about Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is one of the, dear friend, but one of the best marketers I've ever seen in my life. How in the world, every year, we expect the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl? How in the world does Jerry manage to do that? With all the teams in the country right now, we're talking about the darn Dallas Cowboys. Brilliant. He's brilliant. And I love him. But Dak Prescott is a guy that I adore. I even tell my son, Shador, who's the quarterback, watch some things that he can do, because he can really do some things well. And Dak is a stand-up guy. I look forward to the Cowboys having a good season. I don't know about great, but a good season.
Good. Can I just ask, what do you mean by good, though? Give me. Where do you think they're gonna? Come on. What?
They'll win 10 games. I think they'll win 10 games.
What about the division? Do you think they win the division, make the playoffs? What are your thoughts on
That
that?
division is garbage. That division is horrible. So if you win the division, what you gonna win after that? A trip to get beat down? What is that? What is that? It's only about 3 or 4 or 5 teams that can really win it all. They're not one of those teams, but you never know what could happen because of what Tom Brady did with Tampa Bay last year. Tom Brady gave everybody hope, man. He really did. He made everyone believe, hey, man, you can do this. But everybody don't have a Tom Brady.
So what do they need? Like what? Because that's the thing. Because we've been talking about the Cowboys, and you're right. Like Jerry Jones is brilliant. He has this way of having everybody talk about something that's probably not going to happen. But man, you've been an analyst. You know the game. You study the game. You've played the game. You played for Jerry. You played for the Cowboys. What are they missing? What do they need in order to get to be one of those 3 or 4 or 5 teams that can win it every year?
How much time do we have? How much time?
We got as much time as you need. As much time as you need.
Everything. First of all, let's address the defense. The defense was hot garbage. How can we just sit up there and go straight to Dak and the defense was hot, smoking garbage? I mean, garbage. So let's start right there from the front. Defense to the front, to the secondary that does not take away the ball, that does not provoke turnovers whatsoever. The bright point of that was the linebacking core, and they stuttered quite a bit last year. Then when you talk about the offensive side of the ball, the line has to protect Dak and block for Zeke. Now, which one you going to do? I don't think they're at the age and stage that they could do both successfully, where you could protect Dak and run the ball successfully. That's not. It's going to be one or the other. And as we saw last year when Dak was rolling, he was throwing for 500 yards a darn game because they're playing catch-up football, and he was just dishing it out. That formula is not going to work with them. They got to turn around and be able to hand that ball to Zeke 20 to 25 times a game and let it be what it is. And keep the defense off the field. Because in almost every building you're in, this wonderful building in Jackson State, it's a few signs that say, in case of emergency, break the glass. On defense, the glass is broken in Dallas.
So do you think, and I mean, you're totally right. Like we all, because anybody who watches football and knows football knows that. But then they got Dan Quinn. Do you think that Dan Quinn is the answer? Do you think Dan Quinn can come and fix the glass?
Yet. The only coach I ever seen try to make a play was Woody Hayes. He's the only coach that jumped on the field and actually tried to make a play. Dan Quinn ain't on the field. He ain't on the field. It's these guys, man. I'm never one to blame a coach. It's being a coach right now. I'm definitely not one to blame a coach now. But these guys, man, what they put in the kitchen, what they put on the field, it's not adequate to win it all. Not at this point.
But you are a coach, right? So, Coach Prime, so you're a coach, so you know what coaches need. Like, what does Dan Quinn need to do to get the players ready, or do they have the wrong players? They need different players? Like, what needs to happen?
On paper, a lot of things look good until you say hut. A lot of things look great until you say hut. I just got off the damn practice field, going off, yelling and screaming. Everything looks great until you say hut, until they start being fatigued and you start seeing, so this is who you really are. Okay. So let me turn up the heat a little bit because I got to flush this out to make sure I can understand who you're going to be in Miami on September 5th against the FAMU rally. You see how I flipped that thing around back to the game?
Yeah.
What we're going to be on September the 5th for Jackson State University. Yes, baby, HBCU football at its best. And we do have some dogs that I expect to go pro. Never will the SWAC of the HBCUs have another year where not one kid gets drafted into the professional ranks. That was the last year. That would never happen again. I'm vouching for that.
I'd love to see that. You talking about dogs, right? I want to know, is there any athlete in professional sports right now that you watch and think, okay, this person absolutely could be a 2-sport athlete like I was?
Yeah, LeBron could do it.
Oh,
LeBron could do it. LeBron could play he could play receiver for football for certain. Football players really can't do the basketball thing, not at that level, because those guys are like greyhounds running up and down the court. Shoot, I would say KD, but KD is a little slim. But I would put him in the red zone and then just run the fade. It's some bigs that can probably play tight end in the league, but I don't know about the physicality. But it's different kind of athletes. You know, back in the day, the AIs and those kind of guys, they don't make them like that anymore, man. That was an era that had something special. There was some special athletes in that era.
So, Coach, I'll finish up with this one. You brought it back to Jackson State, where you're coaching right now. You said y'all got some dogs on your team. Who is one or two players we should be looking out for when we watch Jackson State play?
Niles Gaddy. Niles. Did I say it right? I'm sorry. It's 115 guys in my mind right now. I apologize. He is phenomenal. He's a phenomenal defensive end. He has pro quality. The kid is going to be hard to stop. Guys, I'm thinking of several kids, but I know I'm so personable with my kids on the team. They're going to watch this. Coach, you forgot me. How can you not say? They're going to get on my back and say that, because I eat with them, I talk with them, I kick with them, and they know I would get on my bicycle, ride on campus, and pop up in the class to make sure they're in the front row, dressed properly, no shades on, no hoodie on their head, they ain't playing in their hair, and all kind of stuff. I'm the kind of coach that does that. But we have several young men that are very draftable. I'm not just talking about late rounds draft. I'm talking about 1, 2, or 3. First 1, 2, or 3 rounds that are very draftable, that has it, but also has character. Which says a lot.
Yes. That is so cool. I mean, listen, you sound like a really awesome coach just in general, a really fun guy to be around, but also just imagine the experience for these kids. I mean, you were must-see TV in your playing days, and now it is the same thing in your coaching days. So there is a documentary series that you've got going on with your team, and we really want to hear more about it because it seems like a really cool project that you're working on, and also something that really helps to shine a light on the HBCU experience.
It does. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to see it. Coach Prime premieres on August 29th on Barstools, and it's just a really in-depth look. The cameras are everywhere. It was a little tough at first. The kids weren't used to it, and they were acting and putting on a little bit, but once they got used to it, probably after the third day of shooting everything, it's second nature for them now. It's cameras in my office filming this right now. So it's cameras everywhere, and these guys need that type of exposure. The only thing that separates some of these guys from Power 5 guys is not only the resources, but the exposure. And when we talk about leveling the playing field, these are the things that we're talking about. If you can see it, you can believe it. And we're going to introduce you to some of these young men, some of the opponents as well. You get to see them as well. Last year we played on ESPN several times, I believe, and that was a couple of our opponents. That was their first time ever playing on television, and we're thankful that we were able to provide that for them. This is a wonderful opportunity. The documentary Coach Prime is going to give you an in-depth look at what we deal with, what we go through, who we are, what we are, how we are, and what we're trying to accomplish. And we keep it 100. Ain't no falsifying, ain't no sugarcoat. It is what it is. Thank God I don't use profanity, because if I did, you would catch it.
We would have been kicked off the air by now.
Well, Coach, last one for us. So you said you had interviews with Power 5. Put it this way, you could have coached anywhere, and you'd been coaching for a long time. But you said, man, you got that call. There was something about going to an HBCU. What was it that made you say, I have to do this, as opposed to anywhere else?
Change, man. I'm a change provoker. Anything I've ever done in my life, from early childhood to I'm thinking back on nursery and kids, like I provoke change. Any arena I've ever walked in, I provoke change. That's not being braggadocious, that's not being arrogant or whatever, but I'm a conduit for change, positive change, real change, structural change, a consistency of change, a change that would take us to the next level, the next level, the next level, and the consistency of that. I always expect to be great, so I expect everything around me to be great. So that's the training room, that's the food room, that's the equipment room, that's everything we deal with. I expect change. I'm willing to get out there and push a lawnmower, cut the darn grass myself if it's not going to be cut right. So when I'm talking about that, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to jump in there and be about it. And I've always been one to be about it. That's why I'm here. Once I got in, I start seeing, okay, God, I see why you sent me, because you got the right one. Because everybody ain't built for this. Because I'm Tyler Perry here. I got to write the movie, produce the movie, act in the movie, sell the movie. You got to do all those type of things, but I'm built for it and I'm happy. And I'm not just representing Jackson State. I'm representing all the HBCUs, all the SWAC, everybody that's less fortunate, all the FCSs that don't get the attention and the notoriety that they should. That's what's on my back. And my shoulders are broad and I can carry it. and I'm happy and elated because it ain't about me. It's about these kids. You may target me to get to me, but when I show you these kids, you're gonna say, "Oh my God, I didn't know. I didn't have no idea." So that's when we talk about leveling the playing field. That's a broad statement. That's a real broad statement.
That's so cool. I mean, it's so great that you're using your platform for the greater good. And also, you can catch a glimpse on Coach Prine's effort to change at 7 p.m. Eastern each night beginning August 29th on Barstool Sports' digital, mobile, and social platforms. I know I, for one, am definitely going to be tuning in. So, Coach, you hear me? Coach, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And this is a beautiful cast. I think you guys really look good. I don't know about these other people that they have up there, but you guys really
Thank you.
look good. If I was in management, I would fire everybody else and keep this together because you guys look good. You know you look good. What it says in my back wall? Look good, feel good. Feel good, you play good. You keep on guys, you're going to get paid good.
This why we brought you here, Paul.
Exactly.
Listen to Coach Prime, guys.
Yeah. He knows what he's talking about. All right. Thank you so much. And let's keep it moving because whether it's a good idea or not, Joe Burrow will play in the Bengals' final preseason game. What can we expect from him this season coming off of injury? Okay, 1 day after Tampa Bay kicker Ryan Succop tested positive for COVID-19 after having dinner with members of the Tennessee Titans during joint practices, Bucs coach Bruce Arians said he is now implementing his own rules outside of the NFL's COVID-19 protocols. Now, in relation to this, Adam Schefter just tweeted out this morning the Titans have now placed Ryan Tannehill on the COVID-19 list following this same dinner. So on the heels of that, here's Bruce Arians on what he expects from his players on the road.
For us, life is not normal. I mean, we're pretty much under the same protocols. We're going to be under the same protocols as last year, just because that's the way it is, especially living here. And, I mean, that Tennessee come in and going out to dinner, they found out the hard way, you know, and so did Ryan. So we can only tell them so much. But once we get to 53, even this weekend, our guys are going to make a bunch of sacrifices that you have to make now. Families at the hotel, all those things, they're all out the window.
Yeah, I was going to say, within league rules, they're technically, I believe, allowed to go out to dinner if they're...
There's league rules and there's my rules.
So I was just going to ask your rules.
They ain't going anywhere. We're going the same as last year.
Yeah, I was going to say, so for the vaccinated players, are you kind of...
I don't give a crap if they're vaccinated or not. They ain't going anywhere.
Okay, he said what he said. Okay, look, he doesn't even want his players to leave the hotel regardless if they're vaccinated or not. Sam, what do you think about this rule?
Yeah, well, I played for Bruce Arians for 3 of my 9 years in the NFL. And one thing I understand about BA, and this is one thing that I think people can understand about life, is that oftentimes people sacrifice what they want most for what they want now. We all know the saying, the old adage. The thing about BA is that he doesn't care about what you want right now. It's about what you want most. Right now, what they want most is a back-to-back Super Bowl, back-to-back championship. That's why they brought back all 22 of their players. That's why they went out and signed Tom Brady. That's why his coaching staff is one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL. BA finally got his shot to be a head coach a few years ago, and now he's really coming into his own. And so he's not sacrificing anything. If I'm a player in that locker room, it may be inconvenient. It may be a little bit out of my way, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to go and win another Super Bowl, even if it means staying in the hotel for 17 weeks or 20 weeks or 20-something weeks with the extra playoff game and Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. The fun is in winning, and that's what they're after in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, as they should be.
You know, we call him BA, but he really is no BS. He's a straight shooter.
Absolutely.
And he's not playing around. And the best part about this team is that Tom Brady, the way he was yelling at guys in the offseason during practices tells you we're not here for all the other stuff. It is about trying to win a Super Bowl. Last year is done. So the reason coaches are so hot about COVID right now and the restrictions is because they understand the competitive advantage that lies in guys either being vaccinated or adhering to the restrictions and the protocols in place. Talk about the Bills, a team that we think could potentially be in the Super Bowl, make a Super Bowl run. Right now, they're dealing with COVID, and their GM is like, we don't have COVID under control. Like that.
Nobody has
That's the problem.
COVID under control.
No, and that's why you've got all these teams looking around trying to figure out what to do.
But specifically to Bruce Arians, like, he does not play. Like, I've seen him cut a guy for parking in the wrong parking spot. I've seen him cut a guy for getting too close to the quarterback.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you said cut a guy, I thought you literally meant like he cut a guy. Like it was.
No, like cut a player. Like, so he doesn't care. So, like, it doesn't matter if you're the superstar of the team, if you're the highest paid player. BA wants to win, and he's not trying to be anybody's friend. I think more coaches can learn from that.
People can learn a lot from the Bucs in general. Okay, guys, this was fun. Sam, Kimberly, I think we should do it again tomorrow. And tomorrow we're making a special stop in Atlanta to preview the MEAC SWAC Challenge. So everyone, make sure you tune in for that. And thanks for hanging with us. We will see you later.
I'll wear my master's jacket tomorrow. So.
Oh, you got jokes now. We got jokes.